Picture a wooden dhow, maybe 30 feet long, sun-bleached planks, nets piled at the stern, a small diesel engine idling at low throttle. It smells like fish. It looks like it has been on this water for 50 years, because it has been. From the bridge of a U.S. Navy destroyer 5 nautical miles out, it's just a blip, a slow-moving surface contact, low radar profile, no transponder signal. Now imagine there are 400 of those contacts. That's a normal morning in the Strait of Hormuz. Most of those boats are exactly what they look like. Fishermen who have worked these waters their entire lives. Some of them, on any given night, are carrying 3 naval mines apiece, headed for the shipping lanes where 13 million barrels of oil pass through every single day. The U.S. Navy's problem, the one nobody in the press is explaining clearly, is that it cannot tell the difference. Not reliably, not quickly enough. On April 23, 2026, President Trump ordered the Navy to destroy any boat caught laying mines in the Hormuz. That sounds decisive. What it doesn't explain is how you positively identify a mine boat when it looks identical to a fishing boat, moves at the same speed, runs the same routes, and carries no military markings of any kind. That's what this video is actually about, not the order, the problem underneath it. By the end, you'll understand why Iran built this capability the way it did, why the U.S. dismantled the exact tools it now desperately needs, and why the most powerful navy on Earth is watching a fishing fleet it cannot legally shoot at. Start with the number that should change how you see this entire situation. A contact naval mine costs Iran somewhere between a few hundred and a few $1,000s, depending on the type. It's a steel shell, a detonator, and a firing mechanism. It can be manufactured domestically, stored in a coastal cave, loaded onto a fishing boat under the cover of darkness, and dropped over the side in under 2 minutes. Nothing about it requires a sophisticated military. Nothing about it shows up on radar before it's already in the water. One of those mines, in the right position in a shipping lane, can stop a supertanker carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil. The economic disruption from that one ship, the insurance claim, the cargo rerouting, the harbor delays downstream, runs into tens of millions of dollars, before you even count what it does to the spot price of oil. In April 1988, the USS Samuel B. Roberts, a U.S. Navy frigate, sailed into an Iranian minefield in the Persian Gulf. The explosion nearly broke the ship in half. 10 sailors were injured. The repair bill came to roughly $89 million. The mine that caused it cost Iran almost nothing. Navy divers recovered fragments. Serial numbers on the mines matched ones found aboard an Iranian vessel seized months earlier. That ratio, a few $100s against $89 million in damage, is not a flaw in Iran's strategy. It's the architecture of it. A CIA assessment, declassified in 2009, described Iran's approach plainly. Tehran had adopted a strategy in which a few mines or the threat of mining would be used to deter shipping. Read the key phrase again. The threat of mining. Iran doesn't need to cede every lane in the Strait. It needs you to believe that it might have. That belief alone drives up maritime insurance premiums. It pushes shipping companies to reroute around the Gulf entirely. It sends oil prices climbing without a single confirmed mine strike on a commercial vessel. In the first 2 weeks of the 2026 Hormuz crisis, Brent crude moved from $71.32 a barrel. The price on February 27th, the day before the war started, passed $94 and briefly touched $120. Every point of that rise was partly driven by mine uncertainty, not just actual mine strikes. Insurance underwriters at Lloyd's of London don't wait for confirmation. They price the possibility. The mine is not the weapon. The uncertainty is the weapon. Iran understood that 40 years ago and has spent 4 decades making it sharper. Now look at how the system actually works in the water, because this is where most coverage stops at the surface. The IRGC Navy, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, Iran's parallel military force that answers to the supreme leader rather than to the conventional military command, was built on a single operational premise. It cannot fight the U.S. Navy in a direct surface engagement and survive, so it doesn't try. Instead, the IRGC developed what analysts now call the Mosquito Fleet. Hundreds, possibly thousands of small, fast vessels, Speedboats, fishing dhows, zodiacs, hovercraft, commercially purchased craft with no visible military markings. Each one can carry 2 to 3 contact mines per sortie. The Stimson Center, citing IRGC doctrine, described the attack concept clearly. These boats operate in swarms, approaching from multiple directions simultaneously, flooding a surveillance picture with contacts faster than a defending force can process and classify them. The IRGC also maintains frogmen, specially trained combat divers who can place mines manually in shallow anchorages, in harbor approaches, in the narrow channels where tankers are most constrained. They need no boat at all. They need dark water and a short swim. The design principle threading through the entire system is concealment through civilian legitimacy. Iran controls an active fishing economy on the Persian Gulf. There are genuine fishing boats on this water every morning, in the same areas, running the same routes. The IRGC's mine platforms are engineered to be indistinguishable from them. Same hull profile, same speed, same behavioral pattern. No radio traffic breaking the established rhythm. No AIS transponder, because many small commercial vessels in this region do not run one. The Hudson Institute described the architecture precisely. Fast, armed crafts operate in coordinated groups alongside low-signature auxiliaries, including fishing dhows and other civilian vessels repurposed for covert mine laying. The word that matters is repurposed. These aren't military vessels wearing civilian paint. They are civilian vessels, occasionally operated by IRGC personnel for a specific mission and then returned to normal use. You are not looking for a warship. You are looking for intent inside a crowd. Here is the targeting problem that creates for a U.S. Navy destroyer captain. Under the laws of armed conflict, firing on a vessel requires establishing hostile intent or a hostile act. A boat moving at 8 knots toward the shipping lane is not a legal target by itself. It has to show you something. A mine going over the side, a weapon being readied, some observable behavior that crosses the line. By the time that happens, the mine is already in the water. And if the identification is wrong, if the boat is carrying fish and not mines, Iran wins a propaganda round that costs Washington more than the mine would have. Stop and think about what that decision cycle looks like from the cockpit of an A-10 at night, or from the bridge of a destroyer watching 40 slow-moving contacts on the radar screen at once. That's not a technology problem. That's a doctrine problem that technology has to solve in seconds. Iran tested this exact method in the 1980s, watched it work, and has been running the same play ever since. It's September 21st, 1987. The Iran-Iraq War is in its 8th year. U.S. Navy warships are escorting reflagged Kuwaiti oil tankers through the Persian Gulf under Operation Earnest Will, the largest naval convoy operation since World War II. It's working mostly, but mines keep appearing in the shipping lanes and no one can catch the vessels placing them. The U.S. military has intelligence suggesting a particular ship is involved, the Iran AJR, a flat-deck landing vessel that has been converted for mine laying. To catch it in the act, the Pentagon runs a covert surveillance operation called Operation Prime Chance. 3 Army helicopters from the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers, are assigned to the job. 1 MH-6 equipped with a forward-looking infrared sensor. 2 AH-6 gunships carrying 7.62 millimeter miniguns and rocket pods. They hover 500 meters off the Iran Ajr in total darkness. Through their FLIR systems, the crews watch the Iranian ship's crew drop mines over the side, one by one, next to a navigational buoy that tankers use as a waypoint. They have it on video. They engage. The Iran Ajr is disabled, boarded, and seized. 10 mines are still on deck when U.S. sailors climb aboard. The footage is released. The evidence is unambiguous. The U.S. military announced the mining campaign had been broken. It hadn't. 7 months later, the Roberts sailed into a minefield. The mines bore serial numbers matching the batch recovered from the Iran Ajr. The ship was nearly lost. 4 days after that, the U.S. launched Operation Praying Mantis, direct strikes on Iranian naval assets in retaliation. The largest U.S. surface engagement since World War II. Here's the lesson buried in that sequence. The U.S. caught Iran in the act, on camera, recovered the physical evidence, seized the vessel, and published everything. The mining continued anyway. What actually suppressed it, temporarily, was persistent helicopter surveillance, operating at night, using thermal imaging to distinguish mine-laying behavior from routine maritime movement. When that surveillance was present and active, Iran's boats stayed in port. When it lapsed, the mines reappeared. What that tells you is that the detection problem in this conflict is not new. It was solved, imperfectly, in 1987, with helicopters and night vision equipment and patience. What it required was dedicated assets, positioned in the right place, with the authority to act the moment hostile intent was visible. Now, look at what happened to those assets over the following 3 decades. In late 2025, months before the war began, on February 28, 2026, the U.S. Navy decommissioned its last 4 Avenger-class minesweepers. Those ships had been stationed in Bahrain, in the Persian Gulf, for years. They were aging platforms. Maintenance costs were climbing. The Navy's position was that newer autonomous systems made dedicated minesweepers redundant, so it pulled them out. A Just Security legal and operational analysis published in March 2026 stated the consequence plainly. The U.S. now faces a shrunken surface fleet and an untested and transitional mine countermeasures capability. The tanker war playbook, convoy escort, minesweeper presence, frigate patrols, is not readily available in 2026. Walk through that decision timeline. The Navy withdrew its dedicated mine countermeasure ships from the one theater on Earth where Iran has been threatening to mine the Straits for 40 consecutive years. Then Iran started mining the Strait. The newer technology the Navy pointed to as a replacement, autonomous underwater mine hunting vehicles, had not been operationally validated in a contested active mining environment at the time those minesweepers were sent home. The transition from old capability to new capability left a gap. That gap is now the operating environment. Someone made a budget call and a readiness call. The cost of those calls is now landing on shipping companies, on tanker crews, and on everyone buying fuel. So, what is the U.S. actually doing in the Strait right now? 3 things working simultaneously. The A-10 Warthog is hunting fast boats. An aircraft designed in the 1970s to kill Soviet armor on the North German plain is now flying low and slow over the Hormuz, looking for speedboats laying mines. General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, confirmed in March 2026 that A-10s are in the fight. The aircraft's 30mm G AU-8 rotary cannon is extraordinarily effective against small surface targets at low altitude. The problem remains the same one it always is. You have to positively identify the target first. Watching a boat drop a mine from 500 feet while moving at 300 knots is not straightforward. Helicopters are back in the nighttime surveillance role, working the same concept the Night Stalkers ran in 1987. Persistent coverage, FLIR sensors, operators looking for behavior that breaks the fishing boat pattern, a deck being cleared, a shape being rolled toward the gunwale, a stop in position over a known shipping lane. The addition of unmanned aerial systems has extended the surveillance footprint considerably without putting flight crews at constant risk. Autonomous underwater vehicles are searching for mines already placed. Sonar-equipped drones mapping the seafloor, flagging anomalous shapes, feeding position data back to neutralization teams. Navy Lookout confirmed that autonomous mine hunting operations were underway in the Strait as of April 2026. This is the replacement capability the Navy was counting on when it decommissioned the Avengers. It works. The question is whether it works fast enough. The current score, U.S. and coalition forces have destroyed 44 Iranian mine-laying vessels as of the CENTCOM reporting in late March 2026. Here's the context that number requires. CNN, citing U.S. intelligence, reported that Iran retained somewhere between 50 and 90% of its pre-war small boat and mine-laying fleet. The Stimson Center and Naval News both put Iran's total mine inventory at 2,000 to 6,000 mines. Dozens have been deployed. The Strait has not been swept clean. Each boat that hasn't been destroyed can carry 3 mines on its next sortie. If you're keeping score, 44 boats destroyed, hundreds remaining, thousands of mines available, a strait 21 miles wide. Here's the part that connects to your life right now directly. The actual shipping lanes through the Hormuz, the channels where tankers travel in each direction, are roughly 2 miles wide. That's it. 2 miles through which 20% of the world's seaborne oil supply moves every day. Iran doesn't need to mine the whole strait to stop the traffic. It only needs to make operators believe the lanes might be mined. The insurance market does the rest. Before the war, 100 to 135 vessels transited the strait daily. Between March 1st and March 15th, 2026, Lloyd's List Intelligence counted 89 crossings over the entire 2-week period. Most operators are simply not sending ships. The ones that move are paying Iran over $1 million per vessel in transit tolls. A toll Iran has no legal right to charge, but collects anyway, because the alternative is sailing through a potentially mined channel with no naval escort. 13 million barrels of crude per day, 20% of global liquefied natural gas. All of it moving through a gap that Iran can functionally hold hostage with boats that look like fishing vessels. The gas price you paid this week has this calculation inside it. The freight cost on everything shipped by air, which runs on jet fuel priced off the same crude benchmarks, has this calculation inside it. When the strait is this disrupted, the cost doesn't stay in the Gulf. It propagates through every supply chain that touches petroleum. Iran's strategy was never to sink U.S. carriers. It was never to win a surface engagement. It was to make the strait economically unusable at a cost Iran can sustain, while the cost to the United States and the global economy climbs toward a level that forces a political resolution on terms Tehran can accept. A few cheap mines, or the credible threat of them, deployed at night from boats indistinguishable from the fishing fleet that has always worked these waters. The U.S. has the technology to find some of this. It has the air power to destroy confirmed mine layers after the fact. What it chose not to maintain was a dedicated, persistent, in-theater mine countermeasures force that would let it stay ahead of the threat, not just respond to it. Iran ran this play in 1987. The Iran Ajr was caught on camera and seized. The Roberts nearly sank anyway. The mining continued. The same doctrine is running right now, from the same waters, against the same operational backdrop. A U.S. Navy that is technically superior in every category except the one that matters most in a 21-mile strait, the ability to tell a mine boat from a fishing boat before the mine goes in the water. Here's your question for the comments. Does the U.S. win this through technology? Better autonomous mine hunters, persistent drone coverage, A-10 patrols forcing Iran's boats to stay in port? Or does Iran's doctrine outlast the technology, the way it outlasted Operation Earnest Will, the way the mining continued even after the Iran Ajr was seized on film? Write tech or doctrine in the comments. I read everyone.